Welcome to the patio where the orchids are looking frazzled and stressed. And well, I can relate. But if you see what I have in bloom and in spike this time around, perhaps you can look past that and still enjoy what is coming up next. And if you think that the outside orchids look as if they have not been cared for in months, which is not the case, just wait until I show you what happened in the winter holding space. The outdoor orchids look great in comparison. It's so good to have you here, and if I may be so bold as to already ask you to please give this video a thumbs up, it would help a lot. Also, please subscribe to the channel while you are up there with a thumbs up so that you won't miss the future blooms of the orchids that are in spike or bud. And it goes without saying that I would be ever so grateful to be able to welcome you on board having subscribed to the channel. It took forever for my After Dark Black Pearl to bloom out, and this has stressed the orchid out to the point that after this footage was taken, I cut the spikes off. The lack of light indoors has slowed everything down, and you can tell the stress signs as the spikes grew by how they developed or didn't at the end. I only had this orchid in bloom for a week. Unfortunately, I was not able to enjoy this spectacle for the whole duration of 5 weeks, as well as the fragrance of cinnamon, ginger, and allspice cookies. But seeing as this orchid is so stressed, it is not worth the risk of losing her just because I want to enjoy the blooms. So to have this footage is just going to have to suffice, and in the coming season I hope to grow a strong bulb again just to ensure that she stays in the collection. I'm very happy to report that I have several rupicolous cattleyas doing their thing on the patio. To have Cattleya crispata with 2 spikes growing is a first, which I'm very excited about, because it goes to show that the future of the orchids on the patio belongs to those that can stay outside all year round. And Manticari in this footage is also in spike once again. Another good thing is that I had a day where my mobility made it possible to bring out my sesquipeale variety bosseri, which is a rare thing for me this time of year. Not the blooms, the mobility. Anyway, the fact that I could bring her outside to get some beautiful impressions of her blooms of 2025, oh, that was a blessing to enjoy her with some sunlight on her and the blooms, etc. Because yes, this orchid also is very late compared to when she usually blooms, which is end December to mid-January. I'm also contemplating cutting these blooms off prematurely, but the orchid does not look too stressed, so I am still enjoying the wonderful fresh fragrance of soapy jasmine with that hint of vanilla at night while I am working away at my desk. It's just stunning to have these 3 blooms on her, so yeah, I'm reluctant to cut the spikes. I just love this so much. And yes, we are zigzagging across all areas of the patio. Here are my rupicolous cattleyas coming into bloom in the blooming alley. I am so excited that I am hopefully going to be able to share Millery blooms on the patio with you for the first time. The reason these cattleyas are under the portico as opposed to where they should be along with the others you saw just now is I'm hoping that no birds will attack the spikes, kink the spikes, destroy them in any way. And also I have creatures living in the hedge which could threaten these spikes, so fingers crossed I can get them all to bloom out so that I can post a wonderful spring rupicolous cattleya video for you once again, hopefully with the majority all in bloom at the same time. And as things go, I had a couple of days without being able to make my hip function, but one day, behold, the stars aligned and I could risk carrying out my Crestwood Tomorrow Star so that I could get some updated footage of this orchid in bloom. While I only have 1 spike, hopefully this coming growing season I can get her to grow 2 spikes again for us, but this spike has 3 blooms on it. Unfortunately, not nicely spread out for us to appreciate all the blooms because again, energy levels were not up to standard to push that 3rd bloom out far enough. But still, I can smell this one at night as well, no matter if we can see the 3rd bloom really well or not. And thankfully, I managed to carry her back inside without any mishap. In recent videos, we have seen Ansellia africana spikes starting, but look at them now. This is going to be an epic blooming if all goes well. The orchids themselves look a little ratty. The leaves should not be yellow and dying back on the growths. but the spikes are forming beautifully. It's going to be so nice to see these blooms. Also to remind myself of the fragrance, because one of them smells like an African safari, like hot dust, and the others have a sweeter, dusty fragrance. But both fragrances are so up my alley. Then again, I am very biased about anything that has to do with Africa. And true to form, the Dendrobium nobiles are showing signs of what we will be able to expect in the coming weeks. My no ID is full of buds, and well, my Cooksonianum is going to bloom like it has never before. After the big burn of 2024, these orchids are going to look the part again very, very soon. And once the new growths grow bigger and start to camouflage the remaining visible damage as a result of the big burn, unless you have seen the video, you won't know what I will be talking about come later in the season in 2025. All because things will look like nothing had ever happened, and I'm super excited for these blooms because I was crushed when these orchids got torched to the degree they were. New season, new chance to do better, and I intend to do my best to make that happen. Speaking of Africa, while not actually from Africa, but with the name Masai Red, it is as close to being of African origin as it can be. The Colmanara is back in bloom, very slowly, but this color always gets me. I love this orchid even if it doesn't look like it. It is out of the mask because the rim of the pot snapped, and I struggle lifting it out of the mask with a broken rim once I settle the pot back into its mask. I know I can't leave it like this until I'm able to repot it, but as we are getting sporadic rainstorms, flooding the pot is a risk. So I would rather have it on the floor to drain out than not being able to lift it out of the mask after every rainstorm. For now, while it may not look the part, it is the safer option. And if I were up to it, I could repot her right now because she is in her second phase of new root growth. However, that is just going to have to wait until summer, so stay tuned. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do with her, but we still have time to think about it. Sharing the fact that I'm scared is an understatement. And look at this beautiful bowl of Bletilla striata goodness. The alba striata is already showing buds. We have a ways to go yet, but there is nothing late about her progress. However, no spikes on the pink striata, and I'm hoping that one won't let us down and we get to enjoy some pretty pink blooms from those as well. I tried to count how many growths appeared this time, and I kept coming up with 35 or 36, so somewhere around that number. Let's just say a lot, which is awesome. My Procatavola Golden Peacock has earned her constantly in bloom label again because this is the second spike that she has grown this winter. A birdie took out one bud on that spike, but I have a tiny new lead starting which also wants to grace us with a bloom. The spike in the back is looking absolutely stunning, and I just love how this orchid blooms dark bronze brown and then brightens into a very cheerful orange as the blooms age. The contrasts are so appealing to me, and well, there's another spike tucked away which, yes, qualifies as constantly in bloom again. I'm honestly very pleased to have her back like this because yeah, she's due for another repot, but unless something untoward happens, I'm just going to leave her for another year. It took quite some time for her to rebound from the last repot. I just don't want to spoil the pleasure again. Let's have a quick peek at the ampullacea spike, which is coming along nicely. Only one so far that I can see. I'm hoping for two. That would not be asking too much. That would actually be the norm, so fingers crossed y vamos a ver. I can also share a beautiful stack of variabilis blooms on blooms on blooms. Beautiful little yellow sparkles at the west side of the patio. And while I was getting as much footage for you as I could, this fella was all up in my business as well. So meet King. The blooming alley is going to show some wonderful Patricia Van Pruyenbroeck blooms very soon. This is going to be the best blooming of this orchid since she arrived in my collection. She stayed outside all winter, and I see that I'm going to have to remove some more spotted leaves in the attempt to avoid the spread of whatever that is on the older leaves to not move and migrate to other leaves which are really looking the part. Now let's hop over to the west side where I can show you the 7 spikes of my Vanda Chao Praya. This is sensational. I'm so happy that I only have 1 bloom pollinated so far. I have already seen a carpenter bee make its rounds again, so hopefully it was happy with the single bloom. I also have minimal bud blast, which is a blessing because the weather has been so bipolar. These spikes just make me so happy. When the sun shines, which has been rare, I do get a strong whiff of the blueberry powder sugar fragrance, even though this orchid now stands at 8 feet. The breeze still carries her fragrance 2 feet lower to where I am standing. If I could, I would hop, skip, and jump back to the blooming alley, so we're just going to pretend that that's what we can do for another prospective best blooming ever of my Pocket Lover. It has never had these many buds on the canes since it arrived on the patio, while it is already growing a new growth. However, this orchid is totally focusing on the blooming ahead, and it's going to be delicious to smell that citrus sugar fragrance again. I admit I'm a little bit disappointed with only a single bloom on my Paphiopedilum Iona. I was hoping for more this winter, but oh well. Once again, low light levels, yada yada, you know the spiel. The fact this orchid is doing great, that is more important to me than wishing for more blooms. I'm, again, just glad that she's still alive. And at the same time, same thing with my Paphiopedilum Mint Chocolate. We have not seen her for 2 years. So, fingers crossed that this bud is going to be just fine and bloom for us. I'm working on keeping this spike protected from the birds that come inside to visit Ciliano, and I'm not joking when I say fingers crossed. I'm just very happy though, regardless of what happens, protecting myself from possible future disappointments. I'm just glad to see that she is coming into bloom again. Speaking of indoors, we can hop indoors just for a second so that I can show you the bud that is forming on my Rhyncholaelia digbyana. Even if I'm only going to get 1 bloom, I'm really trying hard to not wish that the second growth has also got a bloom. It's been a while since I was able to get this orchid to bloom on both her leads. I'm just keeping fingers crossed it works out for this time around, and if not, then I blame the lack of sun. Her location currently is the brightest I can provide these past months and for the next 6 weeks, so once again we shall just have to wait and see and hope for the best. But she's alive. And true to form, I did cut the spikes of my black pearl. But while they were lying there, they looked amazing and I could not resist filming this footage. It is so hard to capture the details of these blooms while they are on the orchid. Any little breeze makes it difficult for the camera to find what I want it to and then also to focus properly. This footage, while the spikes are not attached to the orchid and while sad, I love it. You can really appreciate the waxy shine of the structure of the blooms. And I hope that you enjoyed this video. If so, would you share it to your social media accounts? I would really appreciate more eyeballs on my channel. Considering that I have little to nothing to work with during the winter, personally, I cannot tell you how grateful I am that I have these blooms and prospective blooms to show you. It gives me hope, and I want to thank you for all the support over the years. And if you happen to stumble across this video as your first time noticing my channel, thank you so very much for being here. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for subscribing. The fact that you watched all the way to the end. I thank you also for giving me the opportunity to wish you a wonderful day. However, I always attach a condition to that you stay safe. Take care. Bye.